The rain began as a whisper against the dry earth, then built into a roar that rolled across the mesa like the anger of a god. Cole Tanner hunched deeper into his coat as his horse fought the wind. He had been tracking stray cattle since noon, and the storm had erased the last of their hoofprints. He could taste the coppery tang of dust and rain in the air. When lightning struck near the ridge, his horse spooked and bolted toward an old barn he'd nearly forgotten existed, a ruin left from some settler's failed dream. He swung down and led the animal inside. The smell of wet hay and rot hit him. The roof sagged under years of neglect. Wind howled through the cracks like ghosts calling names he didn't want to remember. Then, through that noise, he heard something else. Not wind, a sound small and broken, a breath, a whimper, maybe a sob. Cole's hand went to his revolver. He moved slow, boots crunching softly on old straw, eyes adjusting to the dim light seeping through the gaps in the wood. In the corner, beneath a fallen beam, a shape moved. He thought at first it was an animal, until the lightning flashed again and he saw skin, hair, eyes. A girl. She was half curled against the beam, clutching her leg, her face smeared with blood and dirt. When his shadow fell across her, she flinched and drew a knife from somewhere beneath her torn dress. The blade trembled as much as her hand. Cole froze. "Easy," he said, his voice calm but low. "I ain't here to hurt you." The girl blinked through strands of wet hair. Her lips moved soundlessly at first, then she whispered in halting English, "Stay away." Her voice was hoarse, cracked with fear and exhaustion. Cole noticed the blood pooling beneath her thigh, dark against the straw. "You're shot," he said quietly. "That's bad." She tried to move, but the pain forced a cry from her throat. "Easy, it hurts." The words hit him like a stone to the chest. Not the sound of them, but the tone, the pleading in it. He'd heard it before, years ago, when the war turned boys into ghosts. That memory made his jaw tighten. He holstered his gun and crouched, keeping his hands open. "You'll die if I don't fix that. I've got whiskey, bandages. Just let me help." She shook her head. "White men always say help." Then, her voice broke. She pressed her palm over the wound as if she could hold her life in place. Cole swallowed the bitterness in his throat. "I ain't them," he said softly. "You'll just have to take my word for it." Her eyes searched his face for a lie. She must have seen something there, tiredness, maybe truth, because the knife lowered a little. Her hand fell limp. Cole moved closer, careful not to startle her. The smell of blood was thick now. He tore a strip from his shirt and poured whiskey on it. "This'll sting," he warned. When the liquid hit the wound, she arched and screamed, clutching at the dirt. He pressed down hard to stop the bleeding, whispering, "Easy, easy, it's almost done." Tears rolled down her cheeks, mixing with rain and grime. Her small frame trembled under his hands, and for a moment he wished he could take the pain himself. When the bleeding slowed, he wrapped the wound tight and tied it off with a knot that would hold through the night. She lay still, breathing in quick, shallow bursts. Cole sat back on his heels, his hands slick with blood and rainwater. The storm had eased outside, leaving only the steady drip of water through the roof. He studied her face, high cheekbones, strong jaw, eyes dark as river stone. She was young, maybe 17. An Apache, without question. Her clothes were torn from running, her hair tangled with straw. And yet, even in that ruin, she had a fierce kind of dignity. "You should have been home," he murmured. She opened her eyes. "Barely. Home burned," she whispered. "Soldiers came, took my brother. I ran." Cole felt something twist inside him. He'd seen the army burn towns before, called it progress. He'd ridden with men who cheered as fires rose. He'd buried those memories deep, but hearing her speak dragged them all back. "You've been running long, since morning." Her words trembled. "I thought I could hide here. But they'll find me. Not tonight, they won't." He rose, took off his duster, and draped it over her shoulders. "You'll rest now. You're safe." Her brow furrowed as if she didn't understand the word. "Safe," she repeated softly, tasting it like something foreign. "Safe," he said again. "Ain't nobody comin' through that storm." The wind rattled the barn doors, and a flash of lightning threw his shadow across the walls. She turned her head, watching him, unsure whether to trust the man who'd just touched her blood. He sat near the fire pit and struck a match. The tiny flame lit his weathered face, lines carved deep by sun and guilt. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then whispered, "Nayland." He nodded. "Cole Tanner." For a while they said nothing more. The rain softened to a murmur, the air thick with smoke and the faint sweetness of wet earth. He poured a little water into a tin cup and offered it to her. She drank shakily, spilling some down her chin. When she set it aside, she looked at him again. Why you help? He stared at the fire, the light flickering in his eyes. Because once, someone helped me when I didn't deserve it. Guess I'm paying that back. Her gaze softened, though her voice still trembled. They kill white men who help us. He gave a small, tired smile. Wouldn't be the first time someone tried. A gust of wind swept through, making the fire flicker. She shivered beneath his coat. He stood and threw another handful of hay near the flames, warming the air. When he looked back, her eyes were closing. Exhaustion was pulling her under. He knelt beside her once more and adjusted the bandage. She murmured something in her language, soft, like a prayer. Cole didn't understand the words, but he understood the sound. It was gratitude, or maybe surrender. He touched her shoulder lightly. Sleep, Nayland, I'll keep watch. Her breathing slowed, and she drifted into uneasy dreams. Outside, the last thunder faded into the distance. Cole stayed awake, sitting with his rifle across his knees, listening to the rain slide down the old boards. In the dim light, the girl looked peaceful at last, though pain still marked her face. He knew what would come when dawn broke, the questions, the danger, the choice. But for that one night, in the forgotten barn at the edge of the desert, he decided none of it mattered. For that one night, all he wanted was to keep his promise. The morning came soft and cold, a silver mist hanging over the mesa. The barn smelled of smoke, wet wood, and the faint sweetness of dried blood. Cole stirred the dying fire with a stick, watching the embers pulse red like tired hearts. His back ached from sitting up all night, his head resting beside him, rifle across his knees. Outside, the desert shimmered under a low sun, every rock still slick from rain. The girl, Nayland, was still asleep, his duster wrapped tight around her shoulders. Her breathing was steadier now. The fever hadn't set in, thank God. Cole poured the last of the coffee into a dented tin cup, sipped, and stared at the open door. He could almost hear the rhythm of distant hooves on the wind, but maybe it was just the memory of them. When she stirred, he turned. Her eyes blinked open slowly, cautious as a deer testing a clearing. You stayed, she said, voice raw. I said I would, he answered. She pushed herself up, wincing. The pain is less. That means it's working. He nodded toward the bandage. Ain't much, but it'll hold. She glanced around, as though surprised the world still existed. You could have left, she said after a moment. Taken your horse. Left me here. I could have, he admitted, but that ain't how I was raised. She frowned. White men were raised to hunt us. Cole let out a breath. Some were. My father wasn't. They sat in silence for a while. The wind whispered through the cracks, carrying the faraway call of a hawk. Nayland's gaze drifted toward the open door. The light spilling through it painted her face gold, softening the sharp edges that fear had carved there. She lifted the beaded bracelet from her wrist, the one half torn, its threads dark with dried blood. My mother made this, she said quietly. Said it would keep my brother and me together, even if the world broke us apart. She looked at him. But the world breaks everything. Cole's jaw clenched. Sometimes it does, he said. Sometimes it gives you a way to put it back together. She turned the bracelet over in her fingers, then handed it to him. You keep it. If they take me again, you remember. He shook his head. No, you'll give it back to your brother. You hold on to that. Her lips trembled, but she nodded. She tucked it against her chest, eyes glistening. Cole stood, stretching his stiff shoulders. We gotta move soon. That storm won't hide your tracks forever. The ground's dryin', already. She looked up, fear flashing in her dark eyes. They'll come, most likely. Soldiers from Fort Bowie. They don't stop till they find what they're told to find. Then you go, she said urgently. If they catch you with me, I know what they'll do. His voice was calm but firm. But I ain't runnin', not while you can barely stand. She stared at him for a long moment, confusion and disbelief warring in her face. Why? She whispered. Cole rubbed the back of his neck, eyes fixed on the horizon. Because once, I wasn't much older than you. War was over, but I was still bleeding, half dead in the dirt. Thought I was done for. Then your people found me. Fed me, hid me from bluecoats searching for deserters. Didn't even ask who I was. Just patched me up and said, easy, it hurts. Same words you used last night. Nayland's breath caught. You remember us, she said softly. He nodded. Every day since. The light in the barn shifted, growing harsher, sharper. The sound he'd half imagined earlier was real now, hooves, faint but steady, echoing down from the ridge. Cole turned toward the door, his expression tightening. "They're comin'," he said. Nayland tried to rise, pain flashing across her face. "You can't fight them. Didn't say I'd win." He grabbed his rifle and checked the chamber. "But I can buy you time." "No." She reached for him, her hand shaking. "Please, go." He looked at her, and something softened in his eyes. "You got a brother out there somewhere. You think I could live with myself if I let him take you before you find him?" She didn't answer, only pressed her lips together as tears filled her eyes. Cole moved fast. He threw the saddle on his horse, cinched it tight, then helped her up with careful hands. She resisted at first, but he lifted her as gently as if she were a child. "Hold on to me," he said. "Where?" she asked, breathless. "North. We'll ride for the canyon. There's caves near the ridge, you'll hide there till dark." Then the first rifle cracked. The sound split the morning open. A splinter tore from the barn post inches from his head. Cole swung into the saddle, kicked hard, and the horse burst through the half-collapsed doorway into the blinding sun. "Hold tight," he shouted. The world blurred, the red rocks, the pale sky. The smell of gunpowder and wet dust. Nayland clung to him, her face buried against his back, her breath ragged. Bullets hissed through the air like angry bees. Cole turned toward the river, hooves pounding over soft ground. Another shot cracked. Nayland cried out. A line of blood streaked her arm. "Just a scratch," he said, though his voice shook. "We're close." Behind them, the riders gained ground. 3, maybe 4 soldiers in gray coats, their rifles glinting in the sun. Cole urged the horse faster. The canyon opened before them, the river swollen and wild from the storm. He reined in hard near the edge, swung down, and helped her off. "You cross here," he said quickly. "Water's rough, but it'll wash your tracks. What about you? I'll make sure they follow me." "No." She grabbed his arm, desperate. "You'll die." He smiled faintly, that same quiet curve of the lips that never reached his eyes. "Maybe, but better me than you." She shook her head, tears streaking down her cheeks. "Don't." He brushed a strand of hair from her face, his hand trembling. "Easy," he said softly. "It'll be quick." Her breath caught. The same words, but now she understood. They weren't a promise of comfort, but of sacrifice. Cole turned his horse toward the open desert, fired a warning shot in the air, and galloped toward the riders. Dust rose around him like smoke. The soldiers veered, shouting, spurring their horses to chase. Nayland stumbled to the edge of the river, water rushing cold around her ankles. She looked back once. He was already a blur in the distance, swallowed by the sun and dust. Shots echoed again, then faded. The canyon held its breath. The world went still. She crossed, half crawling, half dragging herself to the other side. When she reached the shadow of the rocks, she collapsed, clutching the bracelet to her chest. The sound of hooves had vanished. Only the river spoke now, whispering over stones. She looked up at the sky, its endless blue stretching beyond reach, and whispered something between a prayer and a plea. "He helped me. Let him walk in peace." The wind rose, soft but steady, brushing through her hair. It carried no answer, only a voice faint and fading, caught between the canyons, carried far into the distance. "Easy, it hurts." Nayland closed her eyes. The sound of the river filled the silence where the man had been. She pressed her bracelet against her heart, and for the first time since the fire took her home, she let herself cry. When the tears were done, she looked north, toward the land that still waited for her. The desert stretched wide and merciless, but somewhere beyond it, she would find her brother. And maybe, she thought, when she told him of the man who stayed, the spirits would carry that story to wherever Cole Tanner had gone.